The energy in the room shifts as the crowd silently prepares to confront the situation head-on. The man's bravado wavers, but he isn't ready to give up without a fight audible. The air in the diner is thick with anticipation as the once silent crowd now stands united. The customer glances around, his confidence cracking as he realizes he's no longer in control. But instead of backing down, he doubles down, slamming his fist on the counter again. "What? Now you're all against me?" he snarls, his voice quivering with a mix of anger and fear. Just then, the door swings open, and a uniformed police officer steps inside. The entire diner turns toward the entrance, the officer scanning the room with a sharp, assessing gaze. Someone must have called for help, though no one admits it. The officer walks slowly to the counter, her presence instantly commanding attention. The rude customer's expression shifts, but it's unclear whether it's relief or panic. Before the officer can speak, the young woman steps forward again. "I'm glad you're here," she says, her voice steady. "This man has been harassing an innocent worker, and we've all seen it." The officer pauses, her eyes darting between the customer, Marcus, and the growing crowd. Just as it seems the situation might calm, the customer pulls out his phone and begins recording, accusing everyone of ganging up on him. The tension spikes again, and the crowd murmurs uneasily. Marcus stands frozen behind the counter, unsure of what's about to unfold. The officer steps forward, her expression calm but commanding. "Sir, I need you to lower your voice and explain what's going on," she says firmly. The customer, still holding his phone, smirks and points it at Marcus. "This worker has been rude and unprofessional. Everyone's ganging up on me for speaking the truth," he shouts. Before the officer can respond, a voice from the crowd cuts through the noise. "That's not what happened, and we've got proof." It's the man who had been quietly recording the scene on his phone. He steps forward, holding it up. "This video shows exactly what you said and how you treated him," he adds, his voice steady. The officer takes the phone and reviews the footage, her expression growing serious. She turns back to the customer, whose smugness is quickly fading. "Sir, the video shows clear harassment. I'm going to have to ask you to leave," she says. As the officer escorts him out, the diner erupts into applause. Marcus, overwhelmed, is met with words of encouragement from the patrons. But just as the atmosphere begins to calm, the young woman steps forward one last time. "Linda," she says, addressing the manager, "I think it's time Marcus got that promotion we've all been rooting for." The manager smiles, nodding in agreement. Marcus looks around, his gratitude shining through. What started as a terrible moment ended with unexpected justice and a reminder of the power of standing together. As the rude customer disappears out the door, the diner feels lighter, almost as if a storm has passed. Marcus looks at the young woman, the man with the video, and the crowd that stood by him, his voice filled with emotion. "Thank you all. I didn't expect this kind of support." The manager, Linda, steps forward, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You've always been more than just an employee, Marcus. Today proved it's time you get the recognition you deserve." The patrons cheer again as Marcus smiles, humbled by the moment. The young woman returns to her booth, her coffee now cold, but her mission accomplished. As she picks up her things, Marcus approaches her. "You didn't have to do that," he says. She smiles. Sometimes, doing what's right is the only choice. As she walks out, the diner returns to its usual buzz, but the day leaves everyone with one clear message. Standing up for each other can change everything. It's a busy afternoon at a local diner, and the atmosphere is buzzing with chatter and clinking dishes. Everyone seems to be enjoying their day, until one customer shatters the peace. A middle-aged man walks in, demanding attention in a loud voice, but his entitled behavior quickly takes the dark turn. He directs a string of rude and offensive remarks at Marcus, a young black worker who's just doing his job. The tension in the room is thick as everyone watches, unsure of what to do. Marcus tries to stay calm, but the man's words cut deeper with every passing second. Just when it seems like the situation couldn't get worse, someone in the crowd decides enough is enough. What happens next will leave you speechless. Stay tuned as we unfold this story of courage, justice, and standing up for what's right. The diner falls silent as the man continues his tirade, his voice echoing louder than ever. Marcus, still trying to keep his composure, takes a deep breath and politely explains the situation. But the customer isn't interested in hearing reason. Instead, he slams his hand on the counter, causing a few nearby patrons to flinch. Marcus has always been known for his kindness and patience, but the strain is beginning to show in his eyes. Some customers exchange uneasy glances, clearly uncomfortable but unsure of how to intervene. The diner manager, a middle-aged woman named Linda, watches from a distance, weighing her options. She knows Marcus is one of her best employees, always reliable, always respectful. But before she can step in, another customer, a young woman sitting in a corner booth, quietly sets her coffee cup down and stands. The young woman slowly makes her way toward the counter, her every step deliberate. Marcus notices her approach and briefly locks eyes with her, a flicker of gratitude flashing across his face. The angry customer, oblivious to her presence, continues his rant, demanding special treatment and throwing insults at Marcus that grow uglier by the second. Other patrons start murmuring among themselves. Some are visibly uncomfortable but remain rooted to their seats, while others pull out their phones, recording the heated exchange. A man sitting near the door shifts uncomfortably, clearly torn between staying out of it and speaking up. Meanwhile, Linda, the manager, begins moving toward the counter, but the young woman gets there first. She stops a few feet away from the customer and clears her throat. "Excuse me," she says firmly, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Everyone in the diner turns to watch, their attention now split between her and the man's boiling rage. Her eyes are locked on the scene, and her expression is unreal. The diner feels frozen in time as all eyes focus on the young woman. The rude customer glares at her, his face reddening with irritation. "This has nothing to do with you," he snaps, his voice dripping with arrogance. But she doesn't back down. Instead, she crosses her arms and looks him directly in the eye. "It has everything to do with all of us," she replies, her tone steady but filled with conviction. Marcus, still behind the counter, shifts uncomfortably, unsure of what will happen next. Linda stops mid-step, observing the scene with a mix of caution and hope. The young woman turns to the growing crowd of onlookers. "Are we really going to sit here and let this happen?" she asks, her voice rising slightly. The tension in the room thickens, and for a moment, no one says a word. Then, slowly, a man near the back stands up. A woman at a nearby table does the same. The customer glances around nervously as more people begin to rise, their expressions unified in quiet defiance.